Now let's go for one more example. In this example, we are also going to process a file that has comma-separated values, and these values are organized into records, and each record is saved as a single line. And these records consist of fields, and these fields are described in the problem statement. It is given to us as sample data inside the file, so it's better while reading the description of each field in the problem statement. We have a look into this data. This will give us a clear understanding of what each record consists of what type of fields. So let us read the problem statement. It says, assume that a local store has a file called store.txt with unknown number of lines. When it says unknown number of lines, that means we are going to read from the file line by line until we reach the end of the file. And we have already implemented the previous examples that way. So we keep reading the lines until we reach the end of the file. It says each line, and look into the first line, contains the ID of an item. That means 232 is an ID of an item, which is an integer, followed by the cost of the item, followed by the selling price. So we have information about items for a local store saved into records and fields. The first field is the ID of the item. Second field is the cost of the item. Third field is the selling price of the item. It says all data are separated by comma. So this is why each line is called comma-separated values. It says here that the profit of an item is computed by subtracting cost from the selling price. So what we need to do, we need to write a program that reads all the lines from the file store.txt and stores them in a separate file or in a different file called a profit.txt. And this is a sample output file, such that on each line we store the ID, and have a look into the output, the sample output. This is the ID, followed by the profit separated by a comma. So for the first item, we have the ID, comma, followed by the profit. At the end of the file, leave an empty line, and notice here we have an empty line for the sample output file, and then store the total profit. So we need to find the total profit for all items that are sold in a local store. So let us implement this program using JGrasp. This is the data file that we are going to use for our program. It is called store.txt. It has records for only 8 items. Each record is saved on a single line, and the fields of this record are separated by commas. For the program, we have prepared the following initial code. First, we are importing the necessary classes for the objects that we are going to use in our program, and these classes are FindNotFoundException class, File class, PrintWriter class, and finally is the Scanner class. The name of the class for the program is called StoreRecordsReader, and it has only one method, which is the main method. Now for the data, initially we have only 3 variables. The first one is an integer for the line number. We are going to use this variable to keep a track of how many lines do we have in our program. While reading the lines inside the file, we increment this variable by 1. The second variable is for the input stream for the input file, and it is of type scanner, and it is initialized to null. And the third variable is for the output stream for the output file, and it is of type PrintWriter, and it is also initialized to null. So let us write the program. We're not going to follow the same method that we have followed for the previous 2 examples. I mean by copying an already implemented program and accordingly we modify it. We're going to write everything from scratch so that you understand and remember the commands. At the same time, you get clearer about the logic of the program. So first we need to define the data for our program. We need an ID, and it is an integer. And we need 2 variables, one for cost and one for selling price, and both of them are double. So double, cost, and selling price. And if we need any more variables, then we will come back to this area and add those variables. Since our program is dealing with files, we expect to see a try and catch a block. because when we open a file for reading or writing, we might expect that an exception is thrown. So we have to catch this exception. So I have written a try block as well as two catch blocks. One for problems that could occur when we open the file for reading or writing, and it is called find not found exception. And the other one is when we have a problem converting a number string into a primitive data type. Now, the exceptions for files. It's not only we could have a problem while opening the file. We could have also problems while reading the file or writing into the file. So therefore, we are not going to use find not found exception. We are going to use a more general error that could happen when we open a file for reading or writing. And this exception is called input-output exception. And this is a super class for the find not found exception. So therefore, we have to change the import. And in this case, we need to import the IO exception. The IO exception class, because we are going to create objects from this class. And also notice that we are going to open two files, one for reading and one for writing, and we are going to put them both in the same try block. So maybe when we open a file for writing or reading, raise an exception, and both will take us to the same catch block. And therefore, we don't know from which file this exception was thrown. This is why the message says here, error opening either store.txt, which is the input file, or a profit.txt, which is the output file. Now, if you want to know exactly which of these files raised this exception or thrown this exception, then you need to provide separate try and catch blocks for each of the files while opening the file for reading and while opening the file for writing. So let us open the files inside the try block. First, we want to open the file for reading. So we write n file equal new scanner, and inside the scanner we need to create a new file, and the name of the file is store.txt, and this is the name of the input file. So this is how to open store.txt for reading as an input file. Now for opening the output file for writing, so out file is equal to new print writer, and we provide the file name as an input parameter to the constructor for the print writer. And the name is called profit.txt. So maybe when we open the file for reading, raise an exception, and maybe when we open the output file, also raise an exception. Both will take us to the same catch block, which is input-output exception. After opening the file, both for input and for output, now we are ready to read from the file line by line. So the logic for reading from the input file as a text file line by line is the following. We write a while loop, and we need to call the method has next line because we are going to read from the file line by line. So we have to make sure that we have a line to read. So we say n file dot has next line, and then inside we read the line and save it into a string. We're going to call it line. Since we have a line to read, then we can call the next method for reading a complete line. So we say that n file dot next line. So first we test whether we have a line to read, and then inside we read the file. Now whenever we don't have a line to read, that means we are at the end of the file. So has next line will return false, and we will exit from the while loop. Immediately when we enter the loop, we need to increase the number of lines that we have read so far, and we have a variable for that. It is called line number. So here we say line number plus a plus. So when we do the conversion for any number string and we have a problem, the catch block will print this line number so that the user go to the file and change the data to avoid this problem. Next, after reading the line, you know that the line consists of records. So we need to split the records into individual fields. And the fields are separated by comma. So we say that we need an array of a string that will hold the fields, and we are going to call it field. And here we are going to call the method split that is defined inside the string class. So you say split, and you provide as input parameter the delimiter, how you want to split the line. we want to split the line according to the comma. So it will make pieces, and these pieces are small strings, will be saved into an array of strings. So here we forgot to say that this is an array, because the split will give us more than one array. The first field is the ID, so we need to convert the number string into an integer. So we say ID equal the name of the wrapper class, integer, dot parse int, and it is in field 0. The cost is in field 2, so we will say cost is equal to double, and we call the parse method, which is parse double for conversion, and we supply field 2, which is field 1 inside the array, as an input parameter to the parse double. Also, we need to do the same for selling a price, and we simply copy and paste, and we will change cost into selling a price, and this will convert field 2. So field 0 is for the ID, field 1 is for the cost, and field 2 is for the selling price. ID is integer, cost is double, and selling price is double. Now we need to compute the profit. So we're going to define a local variable that is called profit, which is equal to selling price minus cost. And as you remember that we need to output to an output file the ID followed by comma followed by the profit. So we will say out file dot println. We will send ID to the file followed by comma followed by the profit. So for each line we read from the file, we split it into fields, we do the necessary conversion, we compute the profit, and then we write into the output file the ID comma followed by the profit. Also, it is required to compute the total profit. So we need a variable that is double because the profit is double, and we are going to call it total profit. And this is equal to 0 because this is going to be used for accumulating the profits. And every time we compute the profit, we change the value of total profit by writing total profit equal total profit plus a profit. Let us make sure that the spelling is correct. Total profit equal total profit plus a profit, and this will compute the total for all profits. When we exit the loop, remember that the question says that we have to leave at the end of the file a new line. So we will say out file dot println. So we are going to leave a new line, and then we are going to display a message says total profit, and we write the value of the total profit variable. So total profit, and end the println statement. This now completes the implementation for our program, and at the end it will say that the results are saved into the file profit.txt. So let us run the program for testing. You click run. As you can see, we don't have any errors. A message is displayed on the screen, says the results are saved into the file profit.txt. To see the contents of this file, you need to open it. Where is this file? This file is supposed to be in the same folder of your program source file. Where did you create this file, which is the program file? If you look on top of the screen, we have created this file into a folder called files. And on the left hand side, we have the folder structures. So our program is saved into a folder called files. We double click, we go inside it, and here is our output file, which is called the profit. Now double click on it, and it will open it for us. And this is the output of our program. Each line consists of an ID, comma, followed by a profit. And at the end of the file, we have a new line, and followed by a message, total profit, followed by the total of all profits. And this completes the implementation of our program.